All right, we're here with Alvine, Duquesne University women's coach. Al, I can't believe it's 13 years, at least at least among all of the Division One coaches in Pittsburgh. You're the dean of the college circuit, I would say. I know there's
Wow, I've
maybe
never,
more.
that's weird. I've never really thought of that before, but I guess I kind of am. I was always used to Kowalski being around here, and obviously Randy's been around for so long. It seems like, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. It just seems like just yesterday, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
Yeah, I believe it was 2011. So I guess maybe that's my first question for you. How much the Pittsburgh region, the Pittsburgh area, soccer in our region, from your perspective, how much has it changed? In its, obviously, I think I know the answer to this, but I'd really love to hear your perspective.
I mean, it's changed dramatically. I mean, I can even go back to when I played at Robert Morris. There were some good players here, but it was tough to build a Division One program space solely with kids from Pittsburgh. So there were a lot of international kids, a lot of kids from my neck of the woods in New Jersey and New York. Um, so that's probably been the most dramatic change that I've seen. I know it's a pretty long span of time, but um, you know, just with better coaching and just the increased popularity of the sport on a national level, it's just gotten better exponentially. But even over the last 12 or 13 years, where we've always been a program that has tried to get the best local kids here, and some of the best players that we've had during my tenure have been Pittsburgh kids. Some of the captains, all conference players, kids that were on the team that played in the NCAA tournament and won the Atlantic 10 championship. Uh, it's been a big part of our recruiting plan. So, and I don't think that was always the case in the earlier days here of soccer, when it was just starting to get off the ground.
Well, I'm looking at your roster. I mean, you have 13, I believe 13, maybe if you count a few of the closer, not quite Western PA players, maybe 14 or 15, 16, maybe. Yeah, your roster is, we always love to talk about the WPIL, but even the extension of that, there's some of the players coming from northwest, up near Erie and central PA. Your recruiting base, that's a great point about so many years ago, and I believe me, I was in your shoes too. I was coaching collegiately in the late 90s, and you had to almost have that international,
Yeah,
few players to and then the base of local player, whatever you could get. But
right.
now, like I said, it just seems like you can really start here and then build out.
And that's the plan. That's the plan for us, to be honest with you. And I think we cast a pretty wide net in terms of our recruiting. In terms of, I'm from New Jersey, so I'm always recruiting the kids from New Jersey, uh, from Long Island. We've had great luck with kids from Virginia, Maryland. Ohio is a big hotbed for us in terms of the kids that we're trying to bring in here. So, but it all begins with the local teams here. Whether it's Beadling, Century, the Riverhounds, some of the other clubs we're starting to get into bed with a little bit more as well. So it's a big priority for us in our approach, and it's paid dividends for us because we've gotten some really good ones over the years.
Oh, absolutely. And Zach interviewed Haley Longwell, and when we were covering Moon, during those years, I mean, what an outstanding high school career, and of course, club wise. I mean, that's definitely what you're shooting for, is those type of players who come to your program now. I think the other thing is maybe we help a little bit doing what we do, but of course,
Absolutely, yeah.
and I'm sure that the Post Gazette and the Trib and everybody involved, but like, I think the players are getting a little bit more recognition locally, and I think that also helps.
Recognition locally and nationally as well too. I mean, we've gotten kids over the years that are in with, um, the national team programs, and with the ECNL and the GA becoming what it's been. Um, a lot of Pittsburgh-based clubs are getting, recognized as having some of the top talent in the country. So that's great to see as well too. Yeah, makes our job easier, obviously, and makes your job a lot more fun, I'm sure, to be able to talk about those kids.
Yeah. So before we get into the season and everything, I really want to talk to you about. I'm just curious in terms of your recruiting efforts, and kind of what your kind of what your protocol typically is, what you're doing. I mean, how much time do you spend in and around this area? And is there any tournaments and things like that you do go see out, maybe even beyond this area? But is there so much going on here that you can see a lot of players in person now, in our region, or do you have to kind of still get out and about a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we again, it makes high level recruiting a lot easier having, the Riverhounds are an ECNL team, so they've got league games that they're hosting, and those are great games for us to go to because we can see the Riverhounds. Plus, you can see teams like the Cleveland Internationals or Ohio Elite, just league games that they're playing. And same thing with Century and Beadling being in the GA, they're hosting games. So it's made our local recruiting efforts a lot easier. But there are a ton of major national events that the ECNL and the GA put on in Florida, in Texas, in California. So those are all really important for us to get to as well too, because we can see teams from all over the country in one venue. So that's an invaluable part of our process as well too.
And when you're recruiting a player, what are you? I think a lot of our listeners, and people may be familiar with your program, may not be, but when people think about your programs, what they have to face, how would you identify, what an Alvine coach team is all about?
First and foremost, organized, tough to play against, gritty, physical. I think that's a hallmark of all the teams that we've had here since I've been here. But also having players with some flair and with ability. The things that we look for, that I look for. I guess it's a lot of the same things that every coach looks for in terms of athleticism and technical ability and tactical acumen. But for me, we're looking at things that maybe aren't quite as close to the surface in terms of how they're interacting with their teammates. How are they interacting with their coaches, with the referees? What do they do when they go down a goal, or 2 goals, or 3 goals? How does that affect their attitude during the game, or going up a goal? So there's a lot of stuff that we look at that maybe isn't the most apparent when you're just watching a soccer game, like a parent or a fan would watch. Our perspective is a little bit different in terms of how they're going to fit in with our team in terms of how we play, but also how will they affect the culture of the program as well, which in some cases can be even more important.
Yeah, and playing in Pittsburgh, you have some competition here, but really you're focused on the Atlantic 10 and that competition. Obviously this season, last year, you kind of got back into the fold in terms of postseason, and you've had some success last year. Just talk about this returning group. And it seems like, I think you only have 3 seniors, but you have a lot of returners, at least from what I could see here. you just talk about this group coming back this year and kind of building on the momentum that you had from last season.
Yeah, even though we're only carrying 3 seniors this year, it's a very experienced group at this point. But when this group of juniors, which is the biggest class that we have, there's a lot of them. When they were freshmen, we probably had 6, 7, sometimes even 8 freshmen starting every game. We were actually the youngest team in Division One in 2022, and we finished 5th in the conference. Which in our conference, if you're finishing in the top third, that's saying something with the quality of the programs that we have in the Atlantic. The following year, last year, same thing. We finished in 5th place. Went one better. We got into the tournament in 2022 when all those kids were freshmen. First conference tournament game, we went down to Davidson and lost to them, but it was great for them to get that experience of playing in the postseason. So last year, we finished in 5th again. Now we went to UMass for the first round of the conference tournament for the quarterfinals, and we ended up winning. So, hopefully there's a natural progression there. And the more experience that they're getting and the more comfortable they are in those pressure situations, hopefully will help us get to the final this year. And obviously everybody's goal is to win a conference championship and get into the NCAA tournament. So that's certainly the goal of this team this year.
Yeah, and in Zach's article previewing your season, he did interview Haley and talked about a bit about adaptability, being able to adapt to different situations, whether you have some injuries, some knocks, whether players, maybe need to be utilized in different ways. I know I've seen you utilize players that I watched in the Whippeal who were, dynamic forwards, and they're playing in out of the back or they're playing on the and doing outside back or whatever it is. And I think every college coach has to wrestle with this, with communication with their players, especially when they're freshmen, is look, you're coming into a program and everybody here has been, a top level player for their high school or their club teams. But here there's a certain level of adaptability that's going to be needed. How important is that, not only all the time, but also especially this year, based on what I was reading from Haley's quotes?
Yeah, adaptability is a word that we use here a lot with our kids and with our program. Adaptability on an individual level, in terms of, we ask what we're looking for in terms of players, and another big quality that we look for is versatility. So everybody's got a position that they prefer to play on the field, but it's important to be able to fill in whatever role or whatever we need at any time. So we've got a lot of kids that are well versed in playing 2, sometimes 3 positions on the field and being able to fit into that situation seamlessly. And then on a bigger scale, our team is well versed in playing 3 or 4 different formations, systems of play, with confidence and with a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence, just in the ability to make it work, depending on who we're playing and what the game plan is for that particular team, that particular opponent. There are coaches out there that they may have a system of play that they use, and that's how they roll for the entire season. For us, we kind of look at every opponent and try and create the matchups that we want to create, pick a system that's going to help nullify what they do well. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But that's been the goal for us. We've used the spring a lot for that, to really train the kids and different tactics, different systems of play, and different patterns of play, different ways of pressing and counter pressing and defending. So fortunately for us, it's a super smart group of kids. So they're a quick study and they can pick up what we're doing pretty quickly.
Sound like someone who's been coached by John Kowalski. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. I think when I played for John, I played over the course of 4 years. I probably played 4 different positions, ranging from center back, central midfield player, outside midfield, outside back in the 3-5-2, outside back in the 4-4-2. So when your coach has confidence, it makes you feel good that he knows he can put you into a certain situation or scenario, and you can and you can get the job done. Again, fortunately for me, we've got a lot of kids here that can do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking a lot about my next question was kind of along the lines of the home. I talked to Chase Brooks, the men's coach at Duquesne, a few times about this. Playing at Rooney, it's such a unique, I think, a unique venue for soccer, college soccer, and it's really the fans are right on top of everything. There's a certain home field advantage I think that you have on that field. I know the men's team really did a good job of running a long, successful, their last few seasons of being really tough to beat at home. What makes Rooney so unique? And I'm sure there's certain things that you can do there. Maybe you can't do at other fields, tactically either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if unique is the word that a lot of our opponents would use to describe coming here to play. I know it's a venue that they hate to come to. And I guess it would be a bigger problem if they love to come here. So it's a strange, it does have the vibe that it has, just nothing, take the actual field out of the equation. Like
Right.
you said, the fans are right there on a walk on those steps, and they're cheering. They're giving the other team the business as much as they can. It's right in the middle of campus, so it's got a real cauldron effect to it. And the backdrop is great with the city and everything. So it's a really cool venue to play at. And then our field is, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's on the small side, but it's on the smaller side compared to like Pitt, where their field is 120 by 80. And I can tell you from experience, last year they gave it to us pretty good. They used that field and the size of that field perfectly to how they want to play. That's a perfect example of a team that knows exactly what they're working with and makes the most of it. And I like to think that we do the same thing with our field as well too. It's a little bit smaller, so we can do things maybe on our field that we wouldn't necessarily do on a field that's maximum specifications for the NCAA. So it's we love playing at home. We get great support. The fans are great. It's just a little extra jump in our kids' game when we're playing here.
And another familiar site at the at Rooney is Zach Weiss, of course. Pittsburgh Soccer Now's, Pittsburgh Sports Now's. Zach Weiss is covering both Duquesne soccer programs, and he couldn't be on today, but he did want to throw in what stands out the most when you see Zach. Is it his fashion, or is it his speed up and down the sidelines?
It used to be, the big question was, what's Zach going to be wearing today? That's
yes.
always a good question. And he never gives it to you right away. He has his warm up gear, and then he has his game attire. Sometimes there's a little bit of similarity, but it's usually something special for the game. Used to be just that, but it's obviously he's been training, so he's gotten a little bit quicker. He's gotten a little bit more explosive. So we've been pretty impressed by all facets of Zach's performance. And he's privileged our kids with his karaoke skills over the last couple of years. So that's just adds a completely different dimension to the Zach Weiss persona.
Well, and at Persona, obviously, he covers golf, and he's been out at some of the major events. And I know, at the Memorial Classic over in Columbus, he's made a name for himself. A lot of the other reporters and event organizers know him pretty well too there. So, but we love Zach. I've known Zach for a long time, and he's a great person to work with. And he's definitely a master of his craft as well. I think we're fortunate to have the steady coverage of both Duquesne's programs, and we're very fortunate with that. But I did want to.
He's a fixture up at Rooney. He's a fixture up at Rooney Field now. We appreciate all the coverage that he gives us, and you're right. I mean, he understands the game well. Had some really good post game interviews with him. Even the ones that we lost were very insightful questions from him, and have a lot of respect for what he does for our programs and the basketball programs as well too. All the sports in his covering. He just does a great job.
Absolutely. Well, you were talking about the field dimensions, and you were talking about, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. You have a match tomorrow, and you play Mercyhurst to open the season, and that's really, I'm sure, front and center on your mind. But that's a good segue. I do want to ask you about playing at Highmark Stadium. But before we do that, Mercyhurst is now a Division I program, and that sort of snuck up on all of us a little bit, at least I saw when it came out and everything. But again, when the season started, all of a sudden I'm looking at Duquesne's schedule. I'm looking at Pitt schedules.
Yeah.
And it might even be a Robert Morris game in here too. I'm like, why
they actually played Robert Morris?
Mercyhurst?
Yeah, and then I realized Robert Morris played him in a preseason game on Saturday. But yeah, that came up pretty quick, and I spoke to their coach in the spring because we played him in the spring, and he told me that was in the works, and we had a game scheduled for opening night, and they had to cancel on us. So I told him, I was like, hey, if it comes through, we've got an opening. And it's a great game, like for us as well, too. Just to establish like a home and home series with them every year. It's a close trip. It's 2 hours to Erie from here. So it's a real affordable road game. You're paying for a bus, food, there's no overnights. So I'm happy about it because, and I know Mercyhurst from my days in the PSAC, and their sports are always, when I was there, they were always competitive. Their men's and women's soccer programs were always at the top of the conference. So, it may take them some time. Obviously, everybody once you make that change. But if I know anything about their athletic program, they'll figure it out pretty quick.
In terms of preparation for an opener like that, what's going into it in terms is it more all about what you guys need to do? I know studying an opponent like that, it might be tough, but yeah.
Yeah, these games early in the season, the first couple of games particularly, you don't have a whole lot of film to study. There isn't anything out there. I mean, we played them in the spring, so we kind of have that to go on. But you're right. I mean, really, at this point, it's all about us, and we focus more on what we're trying to do and focus on our strengths. We have a little bit of information that we'll go off of, but it's not much. We just have to come out and stick to the principles that we've been hammering home with these kids for the last couple of weeks.
And speaking of which, you have like you said, a lot of returning players. I'm looking at your top scorers, Maya, Brianna, Anna Bundy. I mean, rotation wise, squad rotation, again, early in the season, I'm sure there's a lot of players you want to get a good look at. What's that going to look like? Your first 3 or 4 games. I know Mercyhurst, and you have Pitt, and then Bowling Green and Kent State. So you have these non-conference matches to really see a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of break it down to the kids like this, you've got different stages over the course of the season, and it gets tougher and tougher the more you go through the season. So you're starting off, especially for the freshmen. So we're doing inter squad scrimmages in preseason, and that can be an eye opener for new players, even for returning players. Then you get to those first preseason games. We played Robert Morris and Cleveland State preseason. So that jumps up a level because now you're obviously playing against somebody else. So it's going to be more physical. It's going to be a step faster. Now that's out of the way. We go into the non-conference schedule, which jumps up even more because now we're really keeping score. When we get to the A10 games, jumps up again. A10 tournament jumps up again. So you're constantly being challenged every step of the way, and the job gets harder and harder. So the more players that we can get involved in these early stages is going to better prepare them for the challenges that they're going to face towards the business end of the season. So, but we're fortunate enough where we've got a lot of kids at this point who have experience starting games, playing a significant amount of games. You talked about Anna Bundy. Anna Bundy I don't think she started a game for us last year, but she made the A10 all rookie team. She scored 3 goals. So, and I'm sure if you asked Anna, she would tell you she wants to start. And she will start games for us. But the important thing is to have a number of players that you can bring in off the bench that can change a game for you, change the rhythm of the game, or get you a late goal when you need one, or help shore things up defensively. So there's a lot of different things that we're looking for. And, fortunately for us, regardless of who's starting, we're always going to have 5, 6 kids on the bench that we know can come in and do a specific job for us and change a game for us.
Yeah, and obviously, again, mixing things up between the midfield and forwards, you do have you usually like to use a decent rotation. There's a lot of local players. Like I said earlier at the start, I mean, we've been covering the WPIL a lot more, here in recent years, and I just looking up and down the list. I mean, I'm seeing names that are very familiar with us that we've seen, and I know a lot of these players it's very competitive for them to get onto the playing field. And so these early season games are going to be very important.
Yeah, crucial, absolutely crucial. Because now we're at a point where, for the preseason games, for the first one, it's, the way that I've always done it is we get everybody into that game. If it means we have to shoehorn 34 kids into a 90-minute game, then that's what we do. The second one, we treat more like a game, like a regular season game. And then obviously once we get into the regular season, into the non-conference, we'll have a better idea of what that rotation will look like. But it changes several times over the course of the season, whether it's injuries or, the tactics of one game may require a different, set of personnel than a different game. So, and that's kind of where the adaptability comes in, especially once we get into conference where teams really have an intimate knowledge of each other, where we've been playing against them for years now, right? Every single year. In a lot of cases, we don't play everybody in our conference, but so it's important to always have the ability to surprise somebody, throw a fresh wrinkle in there. So, everybody's pretty prepared for the games, in conference especially. So to give somebody else something to think about once the game starts, I think is an important part of how we look at our preparation for games.
And I mentioned, I wanted, before I let you go, I did want to mention, you and Randy and Pitt and Duquesne came together, and you're going to play this match at Highmark Stadium, and I think that's just really great for women's soccer in Pittsburgh, which uh, we've got these teams, these clubs playing in the off season, in your off season, um, both with Beadling and Steel City FC, and now next year we're going to see the Riverhounds have a women's team. Uh,
Yeah,
and so to have that showcase, that opportunity to play at Highmark Stadium, maybe some fans that don't normally come to Duquesne or Pitt games could come. But also just playing on that field, as you mentioned, Pitt's field and then your field, this is definitely going to be a little bit different dimensions, as
yeah.
Highmark State. But what are your thoughts about playing there, and just what that means maybe for to play a match like that at Highmark Stadium?
It's great. It's going to be a great event. It's going to showcase two local teams. Hopefully, it's a pool that both of us are recruiting kids from. So it's great for them to get a chance to come out and see both teams play live. With the advent of ESPN Plus, and people don't have to actually go out and physically see games anymore. They can just watch it on their laptop, which is great, but it doesn't take the place of actually going there, watching the game live. Uh, I'm sure it's going to be a great crowd there. We're really looking forward to it. We'd like to do it every year. If we can do that every year, play the city game there, and looking down the road, hopefully it's something where we'll be able to have a doubleheader with the men's and women's teams. So, and make it a full day of local college soccer. That would be phenomenal.
That sounds great to me. I think our folks with Pittsburgh Soccer Now would love that. We would have, being at Highmark, but um, yeah. So we're looking forward to that match. Obviously, that's going to be a challenge. They're going to be traveling to Georgia tomorrow, but then back for that match with you guys. I'm sure a lot of the players, but just your general thoughts about Pitt's program, what they accomplished last season, and what they're all about right now.
Amazing, yeah. Randy and Ben and the staff there, and the players have done an amazing job there. I mean, to be where they're at right now, I think they're ranked seventh preseason, something like that. It's just amazing. It's unprecedented for Pitt, and unprecedented for soccer in this area, college soccer in this area. So, we root for Pitt. Whenever we're not playing against Pitt, we root for it, because success for them is going to hopefully lead to further exposure and success for all of us. So, yeah, I can't say enough about the job that those guys have done there. It's been remarkable.
Well, we're looking forward to the Duquesne Dukes really taking on the challenge of moving up the ladder in the A10 this year. I think we're excited about all the possibilities of this season. As I let you go, just any parting thoughts about the 2024 campaign expectations, and what your thoughts are heading into this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited. We know we've got a great group of kids here. It's our goal is always the same. We wanna host a home game in the Atlantic 10 tournament. We want to win a championship. We want to get into the NCAA tournament. That's something that's never going to change. That's always going to be the goal. So, we keep our kids healthy and stay on top of things as coaches. There's no reason that we can't achieve those goals. So we're super excited about it, and can't appreciate your guys' coverage as well. I just want to add that. I mean, it's you guys do a great job of giving us press and introducing us to the community at large that maybe we wouldn't get if it weren't for you guys.
Well, ultimately the goal we have is growing the games, and so we're glad we have a lot of partners and the college programs, and Duquesne there's no exception. Both yourself, Chase, and coaches with both of your programs have been just amazing. We appreciate everything as well. So yeah, we're together in this. Of course, we do have to ask the tough questions every now and then, but that's part of the deal.
That's fine. You may not get the answer that you want, but you can always ask questions.
All right. Well, sounds good. Al, great connecting with you. Hopefully I'll see you in person soon. It's been a busy stretch tough for me to get out and about as much lately, but I do plan, hopefully I'll get to see you soon.
Look forward to it, John.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks.